All right, today is Tuesday, the 18th of March. A couple things that I wanted to talk about before we get going and working on anything. First of all, again, kudos to Tony Reynolds because he was able to get the program, the tip calculator we were working on, to work. So if you go out to here, which is the in-class folder on the P drive for this class, you'll find there is a folder in there that's called tip calculator copy. All right, and it is a working copy of the program. Now, I haven't looked at it. I will look at it and talk to you about it on Thursday. I want to see what he did. I know part of it already because I got a little further than where I was, but I want to see what he did that evidently I didn't do. All right. The other thing is, again, I don't know when this was, but on the 13th, so about a month ago, I gave you these two things. I put them in there under your in-class folder. And this is one of the things I have been working on at home and don't have finished yet. But so you know, there are two documents. The first one, as you can see, is 111 pages. It's called Objective-C Succinctly. And it's from Syncfusion, as I mentioned. All right, notice it's not new. So some of the stuff that they say in there, it's outdated already. All right. Notice it says the book is available for free from download from syncfusion.com as soon as you complete a registration form. That's what I mentioned to you. I didn't know if you'd want to do that or not, but this is what's in it. This is really well done. Again, some of the stuff is a little dated, so the way that we do it has changed a little bit. But the concepts are there, and they're still good. Again, an introduction to the language, hello Objective-C, a thing on the data types. And this, when you look in here, these are basically the primitive or the C data types, and then they break it into, and they get into the Objective-C data types. All right, this is very well done. Then they go into properties, and again, some of the stuff they say is a bit antiquated. All right, 2012 is antiquated. But then they get into memory management. Then they talk about methods. Then they talk about categories and extensions and protocols and exceptions and errors. Then blocks, and that's what it ends with. All right? So that's out there, not if, but ideally at least when you want to take a look at that. All right. The other one is this one, iOS Succinctly. Same company, same garbage at the beginning. The first thing that you see in here, Chapter 1, Hello iOS, that's what I just gave you the hard copy of. It's about 26 pages or something like that. Creating a new project, I'm going to talk about this in just a minute. All right. Chapter 2, multi-scene applications, is similar to what we'll be getting to around the end of the month when we get into building a simple address book app in iOS. That it's also an address book. It's not the way we're going to do it, but it's very similar in nature. All right. The rest of the stuff that's in here, asset management, localization, and audio is all, I would just, if you ever get a chance, read it if you have any interest in this stuff. I wouldn't spend much time on it. I read it for about the 5th time when I was in St. Louis last week. My wife's like, why don't you come in and shop with us? And I said, honestly, dear, I can tell you, I would rather sit in the car and read. All right, so that's what I did. So what I wanted to do, literally, was to go over this, and then I want you to do it. And then I'm going to explain to you why I want you to do it. Now, is this a little bit, it's like, maybe Tony, with his experience, can say, oh, this is primitive, I think it's stupid. Let me tell you why I don't think it is. Let's hear my shtick for 10 minutes. And if you agree with me, great, then do it. And if you don't, then you're going to do whatever you want to do anyway. All right? And that's fine. Now, they come in here and notice they tell you to come in, and you can do it exactly like this. I've done this already. All right? So you can come into a file, new project, and under the iOS application, choose single view. They're keeping it real simple. All right? They tell you, again, this is a little bit old. So when they tell you to use storyboards and automatic reference counting, those are all done by default. You won't even see the use storyboards anymore. It just will be storyboards. All right. All right. Then they mention, you know this, that you can compile it. Boom, you get that. There's nothing big there. All right. And I'm not going to do this because we already talked about this. But they do explain in here, in this section, exactly what's happening in main. Maybe more than our books did. Maybe more than we've talked about in class before. I don't know. But basically what this is saying is the app delegate is pretty much what's going to be running this program. And that's what they talk about in this chapter. All right. So they get into and they talk about appdelegate.h and appdelegate.m. And they show you pictorially what's happening here. All right. Then they mention that if you actually do go in to the appdelegate.m file, it says you'll see implementation stubs for the following methods. Some of these we've looked at already, not in much depth, but you maybe have seen them if you've looked in some of your code already. All right, and they explain a little bit of what's going on in here. And then he says, well, why don't you come in and put some NS log statements in? And do you have to? No. When the program begins launching, you'll see that message, application has been launched. If you go and basically cause this to go into background by hitting the home button or whatever, you'll see an entering background. All right, and all that's fine. Okay, but there's nothing in there. It's like, okay, that's fine, Jeff. There's absolutely nothing that you just told me that would make me want to do this. It's the rest of the chapter. What they do is they build this application that you're going to see. Let me just move up quite a few pages here. That's the application that you make. Not real thrilling, not real anything. But what they have here is they have two buttons, all right, and they have a text view right there. So you put a name in there, you click say hello, and it'll say hello, Ryan. And if you click say goodbye, it says goodbye, Ryan. That kind of an idea. That's not really what's important. But what they do is they actually build these buttons in a different way. And what I mean is they build one of them just using code, without you doing any dragging, without you doing any dropping, without you doing anything. They do it all just in code. And then they go back with the other one, and they use very little code, but they use the drag and drop that we've been using. All right? So what I'd like you to do, it's not an assignment, because people, do we have to do this? Is it an assignment? Do whatever the hell you want to do. All right? But what I'm telling you is I'd like you to do this project twice. I'd like you to do it once where you're basically just doing it through code. And then I'd like you to do it again just doing it through drag and drop. Because I think once you've done that, you understand the distinction between the two. And I'm not going to lie to you, I'm still understanding it. All right? I mean, I understand what's going on, but it's one thing to understand what's going on. It's another thing to actually physically do it. So that's what they have you doing here. Like I said, it's 26 pages. And then they say, just so you can see what's going on, they play a little bit. Notice that I think it's with the hello, it makes it red. And they changed the color around a little bit. So that one is, no, it's not red. It's what, 3.3 green and 1 blue. All right, and here it's all red. All right, so just so you can see exactly what's going on. But they have you wire them up in here, but I thought the explanation was probably a hell of a lot better than the one your instructor gave you. All right, so what they tell you, what they start with in here is they have you come in and literally do it with code. That's what they're doing right there. So they're creating a new button, all right? A rounded rectangle button of that type. Notice its title is say hello, all right? Its control state is normal. When you create a button, you basically, when you do it in code, it's a rectangle object, so you have to give it a size. That's what they're doing there. Then they're telling you to literally add it. All right? Add it, put it on a view. Okay? So they go through all that, and they say, after you go and put that in, that's what you get. Now, it's still not going to do anything, because all we've done is we've instantiated the button. All right, we still have to add code for it. And then they tell you how you can add another one, and you can do it using, or I guess they have you do it here with the label or whatever this is up here. All right, but they tell, or here I guess it is, and they have you do that the other way, and they have you wire them up. All right, and the funny thing is, and I'm not picking on him. He's not here, but I'm not picking on him anyway. But Mike has had a couple problems, getting stuff to work. I don't think it's his machine or whatever. He just occasionally has. And part of the problem is, and hopefully you can sense my frustration at times, not with you guys, but when stuff doesn't work, because I know where I want to get to at the end of class, and it's very rare that we're there. We're on the road to there, but we're not there. So I went back and reread this, like I said, over the weekend, and I thought, I think that even rather than going on, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to go through this chapter and try building it both ways. So build the same project twice. All right, build it once with code and not worrying about the wiring up, and then do it again and wire each thing up. Does that make sense? Because I think if you do that, I think you're actually going to get, I did it, and I think you're going to get something out of it if you do. All right, it started making a little bit more sense to me doing it that way. All right, and as I mentioned, and I'm not going any further with that, but again, just so you see this is an address book. This is a multi-scene application. The other thing I like about this project that they have you do is this one, and this is the stuff that we're going to be getting into. I started to go through this one. I haven't written very much of this yet, but I've started to go through it. This one is total storyboard. All right, and it's got segues as you go from one to the other, and that's what we're going to be getting into. All right, so I'd like you to do this today. The other thing is, if you didn't hear this already, and Stefan might be the only one who did, is in the second half of the lecture today, I never turned the tape on. All right, so I'm starting to get really good at being bad. So what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to go back and I'm going to take everything that we've done up till this point and do it at home, but do it from scratch. Just start with something brand new, throwing away everything I have, and just do it from scratch. All right, and that will be out there by Thursday. All right, well, by tomorrow, hopefully. All right, if I don't get to it tonight, I'll get to it tomorrow night. But I should be able to get to it tonight. All right, so all that makes sense? Okay. That's really all I did, because you need some time in here to just start doing stuff. And I'm sorry, but just listening to me tell you what to do, especially when I'm wrong, maybe a third of the time, is not a great way for you to learn. All right, a good way for you to learn is just to sit there and try with something that I've at least tried and it worked. All right, so that's what I'm asking you to do today. All right, that's all that I really had.